this piece, and I was telling people before you jumped on about when you hit me up and you didn't have a title for it yet. And I think before you even had it, before you finished the piece, I think I put the show up and just called it how porn helped Trump win.
Mhm.
Um, and you talk in your piece a bit about the manosphere. Um, you talk about Andrew Tate, which I think is maybe the most polarizing figure because people on the left know who he is, but there's way more people in this world that
Wow.
have as big, if not larger, followings than Andrew Tate, and they aren't as misogynistic. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah. And even Jake Paul is one of those characters
Yes,
that
he is.
I would put in the manosphere that has a giant following that, although not as explicitly misogynistic, is probably just as right wing as Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is kind of the the best example of somebody that exemplifies the manosphere in the sense that he came from this combat sport
Mhm.
background, became famous, and then through the manosphere, but then also became famous in being called out and put up for trial for the sex trafficking. That kind of gave him the stature that I think he has today, and has kind of rode the coattails of in a way. So yeah.
How would you say the manosphere has grown into a dominant subculture on platforms like YouTube and TikTok? What role does the ostracization of traditional masculinity in progressive spaces play in driving young men towards the manosphere, in your opinion?
So I think, you know, I I like to I promote myself. I consider myself to be very masculine. I do believe that there are redeeming qualities, not just redeeming, but good qualities of masculinity that should be embraced rather than shamed. And thinking about this in light of the election, everybody was posting statistics and who was responsible and trying to assign blame in different categories. But the overwhelming reality was that men, no matter what race or background, had voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. And so I sort of saw that as the only thing that I could say was a definite political reality. Like we could look at Latino men, can look at black men, yada yada. You can say that um, there's uh, a lot of people didn't turn out to vote, whatever. But you could say definitely that men had voted for Trump. And so I wanted to understand this. And in particular, I kind of blended that with the question of, well, why is that? Was it sexism, right? Did men just reject Kamala Harris because she's a woman? And I didn't. I still
Some.
don't believe that. I think that there were some, definitely. You can't deny both racism and sexism in the rejection of Kamala Harris, but I don't think that it was majority. I mean, there are definitely that video of Judge Joe Brown calling Kamala Harris a hoe, which you would never see that kind of insult foisted to a man. Or, I had people around me that would say things like, I just don't like the way she laughs. It was like, what is
That's kind of lame.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, I mean, like that to me was coded with sexism, even if these people didn't realize that that's what was going on.
mhm.
Um, but in any case, I wanted to understand masculinity, and in particular, a what I considered a sort of crisis in masculinity, and I meant that not in the way that the some non-binary queer you know sub might say that there's a crisis in masculinity through toxic masculinity, but I wanted to consider that in light of masculinity itself within the masculine, the people who proudly present themselves as masculine. And that meant from the start accepting certain stereotypes of what it means to be masculine. One of those things being physical fitness, right? I in the as the image for the article, I posted this um, uh, drawing from the Soviet Union of a dude, like flexing his muscles with a kid touching him. Physical fitness is one of these classic manifestations of masculinity. Profundity is another one, right? The aspiration to be profound, to be intelligent, to kind of intellectually dominate. Competitiveness is another one. I don't consider myself competitive, but I still recognize it as a dominant masculine trait. And then, of course, humor is another one. The striving of men to be funny. And if you've ever been on a dating website, you know that every profile says, "I'm looking for a funny man." And so, right, so there's a striving to be humorous. And so I took these kind of stereotypical qualities of what it meant to be masculine, and I started thinking about, well, where are those aspirations? Where are those expressions of masculinity being directed? More importantly, where are they being accepted? And what I thought of both through, I had a poll on my Instagram page where I asked um, people who were born assigned male at birth to respond. Um, uh, that's right, dog. I'm into both physical fitness. Look at that, dog. Look at this. Um, and so I I had this poll on my Instagram to sort of ask what experience cis assigned male at birth men had in traditional leftist spaces. And I got some responses of people being like, "What do you mean by leftist space?" Yada yada. The typical example that I gave them was a queer cafe. So if you, as a man, go into a queer cafe, you start like flexing your muscles, saying, telling everyone there that you should join an MMA gym, and kind of asserting yourself in any of these kind of traditional masculine expressions, would you feel comfortable? And the overwhelming answer I got was, no, not really. I sort of have to hide my masculine impulses when I go into these leftist spaces. And so I took that. I said, okay, if in the left, these traditional forms of masculinity are usually shunned, you get the whole and an effort to be profound, you get labeled as mansplaining. And an effort to show your physical fitness, you might be labeled as ableist. That competitiveness or that sense of humor, well, maybe your sense of humor will offend someone because you ironically called something gay or something like that. But in any case, not typically accepted in a lot of these left spaces. So I figured, well, where is it accepted, right? Where is it rewarding to be physically fit, to try to be the most profound, to be competitive, and to be humorous? And that was overwhelmingly the Manosphere, right? This place, it's made up, it's not a real place, but it's constituted by a series of online influencers, men, who proudly, openly embrace these traditional forms, expressions of masculinity, particularly physical fitness and profanity, right?
Can we agree? So, sorry to slow you down. And I know you just got out of professing for God knows how long, so
Yeah.
you might be tired of talking. But there is something to be said about just watching just fitness videos. You and I both work out to some degree on our own. You don't have a personal trainer, right?
No.
Yeah, so we don't. We're finding stuff on the internet or friends that we know that work out, like seriously work out. And when you watch these more serious videos, it is a direct pipeline to right-wing propaganda, even from some of the people that are like instructing you on how to lift, how to diet, how to break up your lifts. Real apolitical, almost innocuous talk
Mm-hmm.
is a straight pipeline into this world of right ideology.
Yep.
And it's instantaneous. Also I watch fight videos. And if you watch any kind of combat sports videos, direct line to these people. And as I was saying earlier on, there's Andrew Tate is one person that, you know, kind of is a celebrity because he's so brash, but it's the other people that don't do the Andrew Tate sex smuggling that are maybe more dangerous because they have this almost philosophy like channel. Have you noticed this too? I can't think of the people's names right now because I don't really know their names, but there's the white guy that kind of looks like you, but more serious.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know his name. I think it's John something.
Hmm.
And he looks like an ex-Marine or some shit. And he'll be talking to like
Yeah, I look like an ex-Marine.
a little bit. You look like an ex-Marine who used the GI Bill. And now
got honorably discharged very early on in my career, and then still benefited from veterans benefits. If only.
But you know, he's like a bald, like real short cut hair white guy. Anyway, he always has like maybe even like doctors on to talk about health.
Yeah.
And then he'll have like an Eric Weinstein on. But he'll have like, you know, that bodybuilding doctor guy, the bald guy that looks like the Thing. I can't think of that guy's name. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name?
I'm terrible with names.
But you know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
And that guy's really good when it comes to talking about lifting and how to lift and what's important, you know, what not to do, what to do. But when you watch these things slowly, when you're watching the lift videos and you're watching them clown people in the gym who clown other people in the gym, the next thing you know, you start to hear them talk about the world. And you're like, you sound kind of fashy.
Yeah. Not only that, but when you start going to the gym, your phone picks up on the fact that you're going to the gym. And so if you're on social media, you start getting these videos without even asking, right? And so the pipeline is sort of built in there. And again, if you're a man and you want to talk to somebody about your lift, right? You want to talk about your gains or whatever, talk about whatever creatine you're taking or whatever. You can't go to the queer cafe and talk to people about that.
I think you could talk to queer people about lifting, Alex. I think you're being a little mean with that one.
I am being mean, but I'm being
those are the most ripped motherfuckers where I'm from.
As abrasive as Andrew Tate in saying that, you know, it's those forms of masculinity that are usually discouraged from a lot of left spaces. I mean, I have a friend who's a professional bodybuilder. He's like the 4th strongest man in Canada, who is routinely bullied within his group. I don't want to say what group, but within his group, not because he's mean or anything, but because people are intimidated by his bigness. He's huge, you know? But the real problem with this, and the reason why the article is called "How Porn Helped Trump Win." I mean, admittedly, it's kind of a clickbait title. We've got to get people to read somehow, but there is some truth to it in the sense that the political ideas, the ideology that's being then promoted by people like this, reinforced by even non-physically fit, traditionally masculine people like Jordan Peterson, for example, who really lean on the profundity aspect of masculinity rather than the physical fitness, is essentially a way of seeing women as objects, right?
Yes.
And so long as you see women as objects, you consider them to be easily bought, meaning that wealth becomes your signifier of success. You know, and I think I quoted Scarface in the article where I always forget the exact quote in the order, but it's something like
First you get the sex. Well, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women.
Then you get the women. Yeah, and that becomes the ultimate aspiration of this version of masculinity that is incentivized, promoted by, you know, these people like Andrew Tate and them that are in the manosphere. Success becomes marked by your material affluence and you know, your body count, which means that women are seen as objects that can be bought. And as I say in the article, porn confirms that assumption in many ways. I mean, porn actresses and actors are paid, you know, handsomely. They make a lot of money for the most part. And when you have figures like Trump, right, like Donald Trump, who have had these interactions with people like Stormy Daniels, or the comments that he has said about women, it also further confirms the notion of your body, my choice, right? That I have the money to make your body my choice, what I want
Yes.
to do with it. And in that way, it confirms the view of women that the manosphere promotes. And in that way, it reinforces, this, what I consider to be wrong, misleading, and downright kind of disgusting version of masculinity. One that, it's easy to say, well, the left has to reappropriate masculinity and demonstrate to people what it's like to be a quote unquote good man. But, how do you do that?
Mhm.
Don't have an answer.